Pat yourself on the back because you are right here, right now, for a reason. Welcome to the On Purpose podcast, where together we will empower ourselves and others to live lives with more passion and purpose. How you doing this morning, Jared?
Blessed, my friend, blessed. I'm feeling grateful and thankful that we have the opportunity to do this, that I have the opportunity to get up and see a beautiful sunrise and drink a nice cup of coffee and do it all from the comfort of my house.
Amen.
How you feeling?
Same, man. Endless blessings and endless gratitude. One of those days, too, for me. Just feeling good. Woke up on the right side.
And see, I love that because it's literally a choice. Like, you can wake up and be pissed off about everything, or you can wake up and be thankful that you have those things.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I think that's, we all struggle with it at times. It's normal.
For sure.
But when you can find gratitude and gratefulness and all the things that are around you, even the things that annoy you,
mm-hmm.
be grateful that that's your problem, not something worse.
Right.
It shifts the mindset and the focus and what you're going to get done for that day in those moments. And quite honestly, how people enjoy being around you.
Yeah. Nobody likes the complainer. Nobody likes that negative energy person.
No, but people can be attracted to it.
Yeah.
And it seems to suck people in. And then next thing you know, you waste whatever period of time and everybody leaves feeling demoralized.
Yep.
Which is, a choice. You can allow those people in your life or you can cut them out, which I think kind of ties into what we want to talk about this week, and that's the purpose of individuality, right? And being ourselves. So both of us are strong individuals. Mm-hmm. So I want to ask you, Ali, first, like how and when did you become completely comfortable in being you? Was there a moment that stood out to you when you realized, man, I'm a little different, or I'm okay just being me?
That's a great question. I don't think there was ever a specific moment or experience. One of the first things that popped into my head was when I first started experiencing racism after 9/11 for being Arab, half Arab. That was kind of one of the first experiences of me realizing that, like, oh, I guess I am really different than a lot of my peers. And I did grow up in a predominantly white neighborhood in Houston. So I guess like immediately seeing like skin color, but I think that was one of the first realizations that there was like a bigger difference that I had never really been aware of at a really young age.
Right.
The fifth grade. I was in the 5th grade when 9/11 happened.
And then how did you come to accept it? Or like, what was your initial response? Were you angry about it?
Yeah. It was a long journey, cuz it was something that always kind of came up for me, of having my father's side of the family being of Arab descent, having the name Ali Abu Zalam. Even when I graduated college in the oil and gas industry in West Texas, I got my first job out of college working for an oil company where my role was to negotiate oil and gas leases. And I called this woman who owned a lot of acreage in North Dakota. I'll never forget. Her name was Marjorie Pravatsky. She owned a lot of acreage in North Dakota. She must have been a wealthy woman, because I was calling her to offer just the lease signing bonus of $80,000 just to sign the lease. And this was just one of her tracts of land that she owned. So I was like, damn, like this lady's probably pretty wealthy. And she lived in New York. So I called her. I was like, hi, Miss Pravatsky, this is Ali with Purple Land Management, blah, blah. She's like, Ali? Ali who? And I was like, Ali Abu Zalam. And she literally goes, what kind of terrorist name is that? But like went off on this rant. And I was like, oh my God. I remember just like sweating in the office and just being so like, how am I supposed to do this? But eventually, I turned it around. And by the end, I ended up leasing her acreage. And she loved me by the end of that. And we built a relationship. But I remember feeling so different that it would hinder my performance as a business professional in the oil and gas industry, to where I really thought about changing my name.
Yeah.
I even experienced, I was like, I can't go completely, but maybe I can change it a little bit. Like, I have some uncles, two of my uncles legally shortened their name to Zalam, because they experienced a lot of racism as well. So they shortened their last name from Abu Zalam to Zalam. And like, one of my uncles, his original name is Adnan Abu Zalam, but he changed it to Danny Zalam, to be more American, to be able to navigate business. And I remember I thought about it. I even changed my name on Facebook for a little bit to Jaden Ali. I had it hyphenated, Jaden Ali. I was like, just let me try it out. But I was really in that mental space. And I don't know exactly what it was, but something happened to where I was like, fuck that shit. I'm Ali Abu Zalam. You know, I'm not changing my fucking name like for nobody. This is who I am. And I really owned that.
Yeah.
But it had been a struggle for a while, because of the communities I was in, and just I would allow small experiences like that one with Miss Pravatsky, or like little racist things, really make me question if me being my individual self was the best thing for living the best life that I could.
And so you started accepting yourself, not based on what everybody else thought.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a big struggle many people have, is they want to be themselves based off what everybody else is going to think.
Mm-hmm.
And the reality is, nobody else is thinking about you. They're so worried about thinking about themselves. You know, for me, I always felt different as a kid. But what really stood out to me was when I was 16 and I was a busboy at the officers club on the base. And it was me and Abel was one of my coworkers. He was a refugee from Somalia. His family had come over to flee the war. Wow. And he was so happy to be working. I think it was like $3.65 an hour.
Dang.
And there's a couple other dudes, but me and Abel seemed to work all the shifts together. And we had this German lady that spoke heavy German, at mean as hell, was our boss. And she kept promising us a raise. It was like 10 cents or something. And I was the only one, you know, I'm only 16. I was the only one to go to her and be like, hey, what happened? Like, you were supposed to give us this raise. And she would like tell me stuff. And I knew she was lying to us. And everybody else just kept coming to work. And they're like, well, that's just all we get paid. And I was like, no, that's not how this works. So on Sundays, they did a big brunch. And we lived at Andrews Air Force Base, which is like right outside the Pentagon. It's the big D.C. base. And at this brunch on Sundays, it's all like the people you'd see on TV, generals and their wives are all like, they're there to eat and to kind of politic and show out. Mm-hmm. So like their wives and kids are dressed to the hilt, and here we are, just lonely bus boys. Like, nobody cares about us. So I was like, all right, guys, I got a plan. Like, everybody be here on Sunday, and we're gonna work. And I asked her again. I was like, hey, what about that raise? And she's like, oh, no, next week. I was like, okay. And this has been going on for months. Mm-hmm. So I was like, all right, at 10 o'clock, quit working. And like, I'm only 16, 15 maybe, and all these kids are like, what? We're gonna get fired. I was like, no, trust me on this. Quit working. So how they did, like, they ate, it was a buffet, and they would eat, and then the waitresses would put their dishes on these carts, and we'd run out and grab the carts and take it back. I was like, at 10 o'clock, quit doing that. So we all just went and sat in the break room, and like 10:30, she comes from back, she's screaming at us, what are you, moron? And she was mean. She called us names all the time. She's like, there's dishes, you get off your asses and get out there and work. And I was like, well, we need our raise. And she's like, calls me names, like, you're not getting your raise. And I was like, okay, cool, we're not going out. And I was like, okay, all you guys come get my car with me. And they were like, what are you doing? You're crazy. So I told her, I was like, here's my phone number. We're going to go to my house to hang out. When you want to give us a raise, we'll come back and finish working. And we left. We left. And I don't know how long we were gone. It seemed like forever. But she called. She's like, all right, I'll give you a raise. Get back in here. So we come back. I don't even think we went to my house. I think we went like around the. No, we had to go to my house because we didn't have cell phones. So we had to go all the way home, which is only a few minutes away. So anyhow, we come back, dude, and there's like dishes piled everywhere. And like these people are pissed. They're like, I didn't pay to eat in a place with this. So now we're hustling. So we had to do more work in the end, but we got our raise. And for me, that was one of the times that I realized I had an ability to like influence. And if I stood up for myself, other people would stand up for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and we're like, Abel was just so happy to have a job, which I appreciate. Like, I was happy to have a job, but also knew, like, you promised us more money, and money is important. And if Abel had an extra 15 cents an hour, what does that do for his life? And if we're not going to stand up for ourselves, then we're always at somebody else's decision making. And I was like, so I learned a couple things. One, I'm always my own person. Two, I will stand up. And three, when you stand up for yourself, it allows others to realize their value as well.
That's a good story.
So I just remember that people, and then it's funny because in my life, you know, I ended up being like president of a union for a while, and coaching. You know, to me, like coaching is literally like getting people to see there's more in them and bringing it out. And yeah, it's just. So that's when I knew, like, okay, I got to do something different. Like, I cannot just fall in line with everybody else or I'm going to be miserable.
Yeah.
I wonder how Abel's doing. But that was such a common name for we had a big Somali population because they were fleeing the Civil War at the time. And a lot of them came to the Washington, D.C. area. And, like, it seemed like Abel must have been like John or Bob or Robert, you know what I mean? Because like almost all the Somalis I met, their first name was Abel. But he was such a good dude. I taught him some bad stuff though. I showed him some tricks around the trade. He's like, "You could do this." I was like, "Trust me, Abel, we're fine."
Yeah, leading the rebellion,
dude. I've never been one to get just taken advantage of, you know, and I think that's one of the strengths that I have that allows others to find it in themselves is you're responsible for how you let people treat you. You know, and if you let me treat you poorly and call you names and lie to you and not show up when I'm supposed to show up, not do what I'm supposed to do, and you accept that, you're responsible for letting me treat you like that. You know, and if you want people to treat you differently, then you got to stand up for yourself. And I think sometimes in a world of political correctness and kind of, I don't want to say anything that might offend some people, we just allow people to walk all over us.
So what do you think is the purpose of individuality in a life that seems to really try and promote conformity?
Isn't that interesting? I love that thought because I think about it all the time. We are literally mass-fed information to all go together. But the very people feeding us the information that have succeeded to where we want to go have gotten there by being individuals. So it's a oxymoron, right? Like, do all this and you could be like me. Well, no, I can't be like you if I'm doing all this because there's millions of people doing this. Like, you got to be you because you thought of this idea. So instead of me following your idea, I need to think of my own idea. Right? So I think the purpose of being an individual is to realize, just like we talked about off air, there's only one you in the entire world. In the history of the world, there's one you.
Yeah.
DNA, genetics, thought process, physicality. There's only one you. So what if your gift is what the world really needs, but because you're so worried about conforming, you're so worried about what everybody thinks about you that you never step into it? And now we have to wait maybe forever for that gift, or 100 years till somebody else that has similar DNA comes out with that same gift. Life is too short to be like everybody else. But we see it all the time. Like, we're literally sold on conformity. We've talked about this in other episodes from school. Our schools don't promote creative outside the box thinking.
Right.
It's very much conform. Most of our employment is very much conformity. So how do you find yourself? How do you find who you're supposed to be?
I'm still figuring that out.
Yeah, but you're doing it every day.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I think you've done a great job. I think both of us are very in tune to who we're supposed to be. Now, it's a process to get there. But the first thing to me is you got to accept it. You got to accept that it's okay to not be like everybody else. And it's okay to want more in life. It's okay to want more from yourself, but then you got to show up and do the work. And I think that's kind of where we drop the ball at times is people want to be different, but there's a lot of work to being different at times.
Mm-hmm.
Like you had a good job in oil and gas. You could have stayed there. You had probably more money than you do right now. Comforts, the physical comforts, but inside you, you've been like, man, what about, like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Right? But it's scary. It's dangerous. You could fail. And I think that's one of the biggest tips for people as they figure out who you're supposed to be and what you're supposed to be doing is failure's not bad. You and I both failed many, many times. But we get back up, we learn our lesson, we move forward. But we can't do that if we're so worried about what everybody else is thinking about us that we don't ever step into it. And I think more now than ever, we need people to be individuals and to think for themselves and to not buy into all the hysteria, the media, all that stuff, and just realize, like, you are a unique you. And what you bring, somebody in the world is waiting.
Mm-hmm.
Like your story, somebody's waiting. Your story is going to make a difference to somebody, but only if you tell it.
Yeah. And when we truly step in to who we're meant to be and really achieve and accomplish those things that we want, push ourselves to that next level, those people around us are able to do that as well. We were just talking about an example of at the gym, right? When you're really pushing the team to this new level of cardio, to think the workout's over. No, we still got 5 minutes left, 10 minutes left. When you see that person next to you really pushing the pace, that's going to bring you up.
Yeah.
And I think that same analogy applies in life. If you're around people, Circle of Five community, once again, if you're around these people that are like, wow, look at Jared. He left the police force. He started his own business. He has his own podcast. I've thought about doing a podcast.
Sure.
I'm going to do a podcast because look at what Jared's doing.
Yeah.
Some people may not ever get to where they need to be because you're not where you need to be.
Yeah.
You may be that missing push that someone else needs to reach their full potential. Like, you reaching your fullest potential may be what several people need to reach theirs.
Yeah.
So in a way, it's almost selfish of you to not reach your full potential, because I guarantee that there are people out there that they may not know it yet, but they're depending on you to reach your fullest potential so they can reach theirs.
Yeah. No, absolutely. It's funny how that unlocks. Right? When you allow yourself to step fully into who you're supposed to be, it gives people around you permission to do the same.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're living a shy, quiet, conforming life, suppressing who you know you're supposed to be because not everybody may agree with it, they may not approve of it, or it's risky, well, then those around you would tend to do the same. And especially if you're parenting. To me, one of the worst things you can do as a parent is allow your fears of trying new things, growing, to put a ceiling on who your kids can become. Whereas if you model trying new stuff, attacking fears, failing and getting up, moving forward, now you empower your children and those around you to go forward. And it's a choice, right? Like, we're only going this way one time. So we can live scared, shy, like everybody else, or we can really embrace ourselves and see what the world really has in store for us. You know, like I go back to that last episode about the monastery. And that's probably what I would struggle with most is being limited in who I could be with the routine and the structure. Like, what if I'm not supposed to be this?
Mm-hmm.
Because there's many times, like, I think I'm supposed to do something. I get there, I'm like, okay, yeah, that was not where I was supposed to be. But I would only know that if I tried.
Yeah.
You know, and if I had a strength, I would say I have two good strengths. One, I've always believed in myself. Like, believing in myself is not a weakness. Like, I believe I can do a lot of things. And two, I really don't care what everybody else thinks. I never have. I never, you know what I mean? And I think that's freeing. And you're very much, like, if you were so worried about what everybody thought about you, you wouldn't do your Dak Gratz every day, and you wouldn't do some of the loud stuff you do, and the videos of you throwing your kick up and down the sidewalk, you know, but you're not. And so what does that do? Like, some kid that watches your videos, like, well, I want to kick like that. And he thinks it's cool to go kick up and down his sidewalk because you allowed somebody else to step in your space. And as much as we talk about social media and as much as we talk about mainstream media, when you realize you have right in your hand, if you're using your cell phone, the ability to share your positivity with everybody else, and maybe one person sees it and it changes their day, that's being you.
Yeah.
You know, it was funny last night at the gym. I saw something that was very interesting as we kind of wrap up being an individual. Is I want to tie it to this. You don't know who's watching you, right? Like, think about it. You don't know. So yesterday I did a hard 9-minute circuit for Kickboxing Tech. And they all thought they were done, and like the buzzer went off, and like someone slumped over, and I heard one guy cussing me, and then I hit reset on the timer. I was like, we got 9 more minutes. And they thought we were done. I could see it on their face. Well, we started running. And all of a sudden, all the kids that were playing in the other room came in where we were, and they lined up on the side of the mat. And they all had their hands out. Mm-hmm. And every time they ran by, they wanted 5. Right? And I tell them, you didn't realize these kids were watching how hard you worked. They're watching you so much now that you giving them high five is creating a memory of how excited they were to see you work hard. So what have you just taught them? They saw you work hard, so now working hard is cool. And none of us knew those little kids were watching. If I'd have told you, hey, at the beginning of this 9 minutes, all these kids are watching, they're going to be judging like you, and they're going to, what you do is going to impact their life, you'd have gone crazy hard.
Right.
But because we didn't know somebody was watching, we didn't know we could make a difference in somebody's life. We didn't know that somebody was looking for someone to follow a story. We dialed back effort. We took the lazy way out. But all of a sudden, these kids come in, and guess what? The dudes that were tired, the ladies that were tired, all of a sudden, these little kids smiling at them, yelling at them, giving them high fives. We ran faster. We did more push-ups. We did more sit-ups. We ran faster the other way because we knew somebody was watching. And I think that's what we miss sometimes in life is we don't realize people are watching us. And when we don't live our true life, when we don't become who we are supposed to be, we give them permission to not be who they're supposed to be. And conversely, when we step into it and we embrace ourselves, and that means our flaws and our faults and our shortcomings, which we all have, when we embrace those, now you give me permission to embrace mine.
Yeah. Man, that's big. That kind of gave me some chills there. The little kids lining up.
Dude, I loved it. And it wasn't planned or anything. They were literally watching. And when that happens to all of us every day. Somebody is watching us.
Yeah. And it's funny because I think deep down we know that when someone's being authentic, when they let their true self out, when they show a little weirdness, right, we connect to that.
Yeah.
That's when we really connect. When someone's just being the status quo or being the template of whatever you're supposed to be, it's almost like you're being marketed to, right?
Yeah.
It's all packaged up.
Feels like you're being a car salesman, right? When people have that stereotypical car salesman, I'm being oversold on everything. And
Yeah.
we want genuine people.
Yeah, that's what we want. That's what we crave. And it's funny because I think that the purpose of individuality is eventually to get to unity. And that when you can be authentic and real and your true individual self, that's when you can really connect and unite and become really connected with others.
Yeah, I think so. That's when your barriers are down. You're allowing people in.
Mm-hmm.
When you become yourself, not only do you share yourself, but you're often more open to allowing others to be themselves to come into your world.
Yeah.
Instead
and
of their barriers.
Others out, right?
Yeah.
It's a great filtering mechanism.
Yeah,
Because when
that's
you're
true.
your true self, you know who you're not aligned with and who you are.
Yeah. So as we wrap up, a couple points I'd love for our community to consider is, remember, there's never been another you. There's never going to be another you. So step into being you and do those things that you always dreamt of and that you've always wanted to do. And then 2, remember, there doesn't need to be another you. So don't spend all your time and energy trying to make somebody else just like you. Allow them to be them. Right? Especially in our, as this comes out, we're right after the election. So we spent so much of the political season arguing why our guy's better than that guy or this is better than that, trying to get everybody to conform. And remember, we're all different. We're all unique. And within our uniqueness is our strengths.
Amen. And one more point for you to take home is to keep in mind that some people will never reach their full potential unless you reach yours. So don't be selfish and reach your full potential.
There you go. Remember, if you want to join us or go further with the podcast, you can find us on Patreon. We love having your support there. And as always, thanks for being part of the community.
And remember, team, life is far too short to live any other way than on purpose. We will see you all again next week.